The first part about revising for paper 3, I would say, is just to nail down multiple choice questions. You could just use past papers, or I've got the booklets with every multiple choice combined into one paper. And on top of that, also the old spec ones, which were based on year 12 micro and year 12 macro in more detail. But in general, I would just say to first start by doing every single multiple choice, see what scores you're getting, and try to see what points you're weak at. Every multiple choice question is always based on a spec point. So I've got my notes on here, but you've also got the spec and you can just revise what you're weak at. But otherwise, the general tips like process of elimination, and then yeah, just revise what you're not sure about. Um, the second thing is a 10 marker, and the 10 mark is a data question, and you're going to be given 3 or 4 figures, and the question would say, using the information in that particular extract, do you think XYZ is true or not? So this question said, do you think that the UK manufacturing sector has been in decline based on the data? So I would, so the general structure is you have to do 3 small to medium paragraphs. And at the end of each paragraph, just a short amount of a limitation, like nothing too fancy on evaluation. The mark scheme says to get 10 out of 10, you just need to show some appreciation for the limitation of the data. For example, overall, figure 1 shows that manufacturing output has declined from 2003 quarter 1 to 2015 quarter 1, from the index changing from 98 to about 96.5, or you could measure it with a ruler and see exactly how much it is, but please don't guess it, try to be as exact as possible. Then I could evaluate very simply by saying, however, um, the index has been fluctuating quite a bit. For example, it only decreased by about 1.5. And also, since 2009, there has been a large increase in manufacturing output. So, what happened in 2008 to 2009 could have been an anomaly. That's the type of evaluation I would use. Does that make sense?
Yeah, cool. That makes sense.
Perfect. Another example here. Figure 2 also shows that manufacturing output has also declined, because it shows that manufacturing employment has declined. The number of jobs in manufacturing has gone down from 3,600,000. Always check if it says thousands. So that's 3.6. Sorry, actually 3, that's 7, that's 3.65. So 3.65 million. 3,650,000. Okay.
Okay, cool.
2, this number here, which is 3,000,000, which is 3 million in 2015 quarter 1.
Cool.
Okay. Therefore, if the jobs have gone down in manufacturing, then manufacturing output will probably have also gone down.
Yeah.
However, firstly, since 2009 quarter 1, the number of jobs in manufacturing has started to increase year on year. And furthermore, less jobs in manufacturing employment might mean that manufacturing output is still high, but it might be replaced by, say, machines. So the graph does not tell the full story. Those are 2 types of evaluation I would use. Okay. And then there's 4 figures, so I'd pick the easiest one. You don't have to talk about all 4. You should talk about 3 of them. Okay. So I would say, let's do both of them anyway, but in the exam you could pick your 3, because you don't have to do 4. 3 paragraphs is plenty to get 10 marks.
Yeah.
Figure 4 shows UK exports has gone up from that number to that number in billion, whereas imports have also gone up from that number to that number in billions. If we purely look at exports, we have been exporting more. So UK manufacturing might well have gone up since our value of exports has gone up. However, um, the graph suggests that manufacturing has declined in comparison to other countries because our imports have gone up by more. So therefore, our balance has worsened. Okay. My point there included a for and against, so I've kind of evaluated while writing that. And you don't have to be too fancy. So again, one more time. Um, the rate of growth of UK manufacturing has fallen. Um, from 1993 to 2007, it was 0.9%. Wait, that I would say that the average rate of growth of UK manufacturing has fallen. Um, wait, figure 4 suggests that UK manufacturing output may have increased because it went from 0.9% to 1.1% in these years.
Hmm.
Whilst,
That would just be
uh,
year-on-year growth, right?
yeah, and then you could compare it to the rate of growth of real GDP, which has gone down. So it could well be that manufacturing has taken up a bigger percent of GDP. However, an easy evaluation to make is that this data is limited because it doesn't answer this question. It doesn't block out the years 2003.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the limitation here.
Yeah, okay.
Overall, in conclusion, figure 1 and 2 definitely suggest that manufacturing has declined. And figure 3 also kind of points in that direction. And figure 4 is relatively inconclusive. The 10 marker is not one of those questions where there's no right and wrong. It would be marked down if you said that manufacturing has grown. So you do have to imply that overall manufacturing has declined, and you would have some hesitation and limitations throughout your answer, but overall just stick to the point that it's declined.
Okay, cool.
Let's do one more. This question asks about whether these graphs suggest that reliance on fossil fuels is falling. Okay. So if we start with um this one, wait, this is quite a hard one to be fair, but yeah.
Yeah, I did it today actually. It was it was a bit weird because the like figure two is a bit weird because I didn't quite get what it was saying. Like,
Yeah. Bear in mind also, one more tip. If these are confusing, extract A and B or the other extracts around it would give more information. For example, about what oil is, what a fossil fuel even is, in case it's
Mhm.
something that people don't know about.
Mhm.
But yeah, the
Yeah,
fossil
yeah.
fuels are coal and oil and
They're
gas.
coal and natural gas, yeah.
Yeah. So figure 1 shows that energy consumption from coal has gone up from 3.294 million tons to 3.732 million tons. And oil and natural gas has also gone up. I've given enough data, so I don't need to say every single number. Okay. So it suggests that it has gone up, right? So it's saying that reliance on fossil fuels has not fallen. Okay.
Okay, cool, yeah.
What's the limitation of this one?
I,
Um,
I guess you could also say hydroelectricity and other renewables have risen though. So
exactly.
there's like a greater share of renewable
Exactly.
resources
And we can
than
look
there
for
were.
words like it says reliance, right? So you can say that whilst the stuff we mentioned has increased, other sources of energy have also increased in consumption. Therefore, reliance may well have gone down or stayed the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, there's 4 figures, so we can actually pick. I don't even like the look of this one, but we might have to.
Yeah, I when I looked at it, I was just like, what the hell is that telling me? Because it's just telling you just from 2016.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can make a point, then it's an easy one to evaluate. You can just mention that figure 2, even to be fair, it's even worth writing one sentence saying figure 2 is limited because it's a static piece of data. It doesn't show how things are changing. And then you
Yeah.
can just move on. You don't even have, you can actually add that as a bonus. So you know how it recommends you to write 3 paragraphs?
Hmm.
This could be a spare line, like a paragraph of it's like one sentence paragraph on its own. There's no harm in adding that. It's not going to mess your answer.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Cool. Next one, the price of coal overall. So don't overcomplicate it about it going up and down yet. So just say overall, the price of coal has gone down slightly, worth using the word slightly, from 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So that's £64 dollars per ton to $60 per ton from 2006 to 2016.
Mhm.
However, that is a very, very, very slight change. And throughout the period 2006 to 2016, there have been constant fluctuations, such as a high price in 2008 and a high price in 2011. That's my limitation. So therefore, the data doesn't tell us whether reliance has gone up or down.
Yeah.
Uh, and also, changes in price could be down to other factors apart from demand. Yeah,
So it could be down to like oil producers restricting their supply or something like that.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And we don't need to go into detail at all, but there's two ways of doing the limitations. You could do a real life limitation, applying the data to real life, or you could do a limitation with the data. For example, this one is just purely rubbish data. This
Hmm.
one, the data is inconclusive because it's going up and down the whole time, but also um, price doesn't necessarily tell you about reliance.
Hmm.
You could also interpret it differently and say price has gone down from 2011. Therefore, reliance is going down because demand must be going down. That would be a relatively good point as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was the point that I made when I noted it earlier.
Good. Figure 4 shows something really similar. The price of oil has gone down from that number, which is about $112 per barrel, to only $44 per barrel from 2011 to 2016. Therefore, in the last 5 years, um, demand for oil has also fallen. Again, there is a right and wrong answer. So, like the manufacturing question said that it's likely that you'll conclude that manufacturing has declined, whereas the oil question, it's more about the last line that you can say different conclusions as long as it's well supported. To be fair, the price is inconclusive, but generally, price going down suggests that something is being used less.
Hmm. Hmm.
But based on figure 3 and 4, I would probably go along the lines of it's being used less. And then also with this one, it's a bit 50-50 because you've got these different sources. Wait, nuclear's gone down,
Yeah.
but hydroelectric's gone up and other renewables have gone up. So it's fair to conclude either way on this one.
I guess you could also make quite a clever point saying that like because you could also see how there's been an increase in the if you just go back up to the other data.
One last one. We'll just do this one. It says, does the data suggest that houses were more affordable in 2017 compared to 2007? So this gives particular years. If it doesn't, you could use that as a weak point about the question, or you could use that in your advantage. So here we've got mortgage interest rates have gone down from 2007 to 2017. Give the numbers and just explain that if mortgage interest rates have gone down, then that suggests housing is more affordable. A couple of limitations you can make are that um, they've not changed much, barely at all. In fact, they've gone up from mid 2018 to 2017. So houses have not become more affordable since mid 2008, okay, or 2009 actually.
Okay.
Um, one more limitation you could make is just that interest rates alone do not signify whether houses are more affordable because the house price is the most important factor. That allows us to transition into figure 2, which talks about mortgage payments. So this is quite a useful graph. It's saying that the mortgage payments everybody makes per month or per year has gone down from being 51% of your mean income to then becoming just over, so 32%. Try not to guess it. 32% of people's mean income in 2017 quarter four. Therefore, it's more affordable for people to pay off their homes. So therefore, housing has become more affordable. Figure 3 shows that house price is a similar but slightly lower um, ratio compared to your earnings. So therefore, housing is more affordable. The limitation is just that. It's barely gone down, and also since 2012, it's gone up quite a bit. So houses were more affordable in 2012.
Okay.
I didn't do limitations of this one, I forgot, but for both of these, um, we could mention that does the question say first time buyers? No. So these are only for first time buyers. Okay. It says for first time buyers and for first time buyers. So
Okay.
it doesn't apply to everybody. Also,
Yeah.
you could look at the source sometimes, but the sources are pretty good. Um, easy limitation for figure 3 is it doesn't show year by year, so it's hard to tell if any of these are outliers. Okay, anomalous results.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the limitation for this one could be that maybe a more real life one, just that if mortgage payments have gone down, we can't tell if, say, energy bills have gone up. Therefore, it might not be more affordable for people to buy houses because of other bills. Um, but yeah, I think that's quite a solid piece of data. So it's fair not to go too much into detail about its limitations. It's quite a good graph. Okay. So yeah, overall, I just say keep it as simple as you can. At least three, but generally just stick to 3 points. So I literally skipped figure 4, but if you
Yeah.
want, you could go into it. Um, well developed just means you have to explain why the graph is relevant to your point. So for example, I mentioned that I would say that interest rates are cost of borrowing. So if the cost to borrow is lower, then more people can take out a mortgage, and not worry about having to pay interest every single year, to as much of an extent.
Okay.
That's how you would develop your point. Um, just use the data every single time you say a point. Don't go too into detail about the limitations. Just say one limitation per point you make, and then just say a sensible judgment. So clearly, the majority of the figures are showing that houses are becoming more affordable compared to 2007. But you can mention that most of the affordability improved until like 2010 or 11 or 12, but then after that, it's just been constant.
Yeah.
Perfect. The next part of the paper is the 15-mark question. And I would basically say that it's really, really, really difficult to prepare for this. It's either a topic you know or you don't know. The only thing I will say, so therefore I put less weight on preparing for this and hope it's a question that you know about from all your hard work from paper 1 and paper 2. But the one thing I would say is that this question asked about the main causes for changes in house prices. This question said, what would you consider when forecasting future sales? And this question said, what are the possible reasons for a change in the price of tea? All three of these questions are about year 12 micro. What affects price? Well, there are only two things that can affect price. One, a shift in the supply curve, or two, a shift in the demand curve. The things that shift the demand curve are pirates, so that's population, income, related goods, advertising, trends, expectations, and seasons. I'd pick two of these things, or maybe something from supply, and then that could allow you to predict why tea has fluctuated in price, or why sales might change in the future if the demand curve shifts. Or you could also pick something from the supply curve, and if you're stuck, use the extract to help you. But don't forget your revision for paper 1, sorry, from year 12 micro, because it seems really important. The
Okay.
only advice I'd give is because they're kind of too easy, so it'll be difficult to write a big paragraph about it. One, you've got your diagram. And two, I'd pick an interesting one. The most interesting one is this one. So related goods are complements and substitutes. That's a much easier one to write a full flooded big paragraph about compared to just talking about a rise in population, for example. A related good to tea is milk or coffee. Coffee beans are a substitute to tea. This means that there is a certain XED. So it would be if the price of coffee beans were to go up, then the demand for coffee beans would go down. So the demand for tea would go up. So there is a positive XED. Cross elasticity of demand is um is the percentage change or the responsiveness in demand of tea, given the percentage change in demand for or good A and good B. Okay. You could do maybe side by side diagrams or just a diagram of um the demand for tea rising and therefore price falling from P1 to P2. Okay.
Okay, cool.
You could do that for any of these. You could say that maybe there's better advertising or something, so therefore demand for tea's gone up, so therefore the price has gone up, or population keeps fluctuating. So whenever population increases, because developing countries have high birth rates, um, and the fact that tea is a necessity, everybody in the population would buy tea, so the demand for tea might increase, and so on. Okay. But yeah, you can pick any of these factors. Just make sure you know them from year 12, just really quickly. And also that are you really useful for multiple choice as well. But yeah, a change in price on a microeconomic level is always and only because of shifts in supply or shift in demand. Okay, just really quickly. You could use the notes, but supply is based on productivity, cost of production, technology, the weather, a really useful one. Um, I and S are indirect taxes and substitutes. Okay, that's easy to remember because it's from the government intervention section. Okay,
Mhm.
and the N is number of firms, which is like the equivalent of population. If you're not sure about this, we can go into it in more detail, but just make sure you know supply, demand, PED, PES, and also the same in the labor markets as well. What shifts supply and demand for labor?
Okay, cool.
Cool, good. And then finally, we have the 25 marker. Apart from these questions, it's difficult to prepare. Just know your basics, recap your basics. But I think most of you have done your hard work in revision for paper one and paper two. So your understanding should already be good.
Perfect.
Um, the way to prepare for 25 markers, I'm going to ask you to do this after the lesson in detail. But basically, the question will be um, it's going to be extract and it's going to ask you, it's going to ask you to weigh up something, but the key is the extract always.
I thought it was fun.
So the question says, after considering mostly extract D as well as the other extracts, would you recommend that the UK government supports the production of commercial aircrafts? So if we go to the inserts, so it's mostly extract D, so I'd start with that one, and afterwards we could look at the others. Okay, so we've got I just take a lot of time, like 5 or 10 minutes. I know we want to rush. In paper one and two, I get straight to the answer, but paper three is really about the extract. So let's have a look. We've got, remember the question at the back of your head. Should we support, okay, should we support production of commercial aircraft?
So we're talking government intervention.
Yeah. But
Okay.
basically, we're thinking yes or no.
Okay.
So aerospace sector is a world leader in blah blah blah. There's a lot of skilled workers. Um, there are
Outside London,
a lot of
outside London and
passengers.
Southeast too. So that's regional.
Yeah. 38,000 new passenger aircraft will be required. Um, long-term partnership between the government and blah blah blah. The government financial support is helping the industry remain competitive. That's your first main point. And reduce the environmental impact. So we got some kind of positive or negative externalities. Um, then you've got, on the other hand, make sure when you're reading a sentence or a paragraph, get the tone of it. So it said while, so straight away I know that we're going in the other direction now. Support is bad because it messes with comparative advantage.
Hmm.
So the USA complained about subsidies to Airbus. Um, and I'm pretty sure there was a different question, or was it the same one? Was there not a, oh, that was the 10 marker about Airbus and Boeing. Okay, cool, never mind. Um, the WTO ruled that both sides unfairly subsidized the aircrafts. So then they put tariffs on each other's goods. Um, firms can become too reliant. So this is a really nice extract. You've got 2 points. The biggest advice I would give is don't try to be that guy who writes 5 or 6 or like paragraphs, 5 or 6 pages. I'd say try to be careful about what you say and have two really good sides to your answer and a conclusion that says, yes, the government should support them. No, the government should not support them. Okay.
Hmm.
You want to write a bit more, then that's good. If you want to write a third paragraph, that's good. But the most important thing is you have a really good paragraph with evaluation, another really good paragraph with evaluation, and a really good judgment. Anything else is a bonus, but try not to write too many random points. Also, the questions usually in paper 1 and 2 say using the extracts in your own knowledge. These questions always say, after considering the extracts, would you recommend? Okay. So it's more based on the extracts.
So you you have to be mentioning the extracts.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Because the extracts give context about what's going on. So you can't
Yeah.
just say, like in a normal question, I would just say, oh, just tax, do an indirect tax, do a subsidy. But this question is really about the extract.
Hmm.
What kind of support of okay, so we're thinking financial support, we're thinking subsidies, we're thinking should they subsidize, yes or no? Okay. After reading the extract, I then go and look at the other extract because there's usually some additional points. But straight away, I'm thinking a paragraph about comparative advantage. And we've already got every paragraph on lock because in paper 1 and paper 2, the way we studied was paragraph by paragraph. We didn't try to do essays. We tried to have a model paragraph for comparative advantage. We tried to have a model paragraph for, say, government intervention. Okay. But we're just mixing stuff together now. So maybe on one hand, we can do a subsidy paragraph. Subsidies would lower cost, therefore shift supply to the right, therefore lower price, increase quantity. Um, and that would allow the competitive aspect. Okay.
But then there
Uh,
can always be unintended consequences of government intervention,
perfect. Government failure.
government failure. Yeah.
Um, there are subtle hints that you can go in other directions. You can go down market structures route, but I probably wouldn't. Um, you can also do externality diagrams, but it's kind of difficult to say whether aircraft is good or bad. But I'd probably read the other extracts. And then my other paragraph would be government should not intervene because it's more important for markets to be free so that countries and firms can realize what they have competitive advantage in. And then
Okay.
you've got the PPF curve, the one that looks like this, and you've got aircraft Like you got country A, country B, aircraft, and say like cars or something, and you can make an example up.
Hmm.
Briefly, extract C. It says there are lots of fluctuations to reflect economic cycles. The market's vulnerable to shocks. Boeing suffered blah blah blah. Not that useful so far. The growth in passenger air travel is quite high, so a lot of people need air travel because people need to travel for work, people need to travel to see family, and people want to travel for holiday stuff. So
Could
there's a big
you
population of travelers. Yeah.
could you maybe make the point that it would be best left to market forces?
Yeah, and that would go along but you'd back it up with the comparative advantage thing as well.
Okay, cool.
But then also just the fact that you're right, market forces are good because they deal with excess demand and excess supply quite well.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
take one question, I'd 100% talk about market forces, but because it's paper free, I try to stick to what's in the extract as much as I can, and then use that to back it up a bit further. But I wouldn't say like that many paragraphs completely based on own knowledge.
Okay, cool.
Um, but yeah, there is a lot in mark schemes. The mark scheme will literally have 20 different points, all different, so everybody could have different answers and still do it, get really good marks. But generally, just try to stick to what's given to you.
Perfect.
Um, Many older airplanes need to be replaced. You can use that to say that subsidies are needed. Mention the fact that like yeah, everybody wants to travel. Travel is good for living standards. It's a positive externality in consumption. So normally, maybe you can say flights are underconsumed by people because of the price. Um, but yeah, I think we've seen enough. So I just go down one paragraph about subsidies and government intervention is a good idea. Another paragraph about no comparative advantage is a big thing. We shouldn't help firms become cheaper. We should let them figure out what they're best at. And then
Hmm.
conclude in, and then you can conclude however you like, as long as you back it up.
Perfect.
Okay. One more. This question says, with all the extracts, should the UK government um which policies should the government introduce to achieve its emissions target? Actually, that's more of a micro question. Um, I'm assuming the extract would have stated like three or four different like policies, and you just pick your favorite ones. So that actually looks easier than normal. But some of them, like say this one was a really hard one, or even this one. It's
Yeah,
about
I did
they're
the
all
2018
yeah,
paper. Yeah, that one was quite hard.
they're all about the government's doing something. Should the government blah blah blah? Should the government wait? This one should the OPEC blah blah blah? Should the government blah blah blah? But the thing is, it's always about the extract. Should the government do this? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Let's look at the 2018 one. It says that should the would you recommend to OPEC? So it's not about UK, it's about OPEC's perspective. Should they restrict the supply of oil? Okay. So it was mostly about extract E. Extract E is very small. Let's quickly read it. Remember, we're always thinking yes or no. Should OPEC, okay, read the question. Should OPEC keep prices high? That's the question. Should OPEC keep prices high? Okay. They agreed to stabilize the oil market and raise prices. This has been extended, and prices have stabilized. So far, there's no value in this paragraph. We're only looking for points in favor or against the statement. Do you agree?
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm. The fall in price has driven some companies out of business, but it's not been that damaging. Okay, we have to look at why has it not been damaging? Well, this is because of the low prices, many companies have learned how to extract more oil from each rig. So basically, because the price has gone down, the companies have learned how to be stingier and get more value from what they have. Okay. Then you relate it to a topic. So, for example, that's about productive efficiency. So, markets becoming more competitive, supply being high, prices being low. Whereas on the other hand, if you have high prices, monopoly power leads to X inefficiency, productive inefficiency. So it's about that. That's not easy to like figure out. Okay.
Cool.
But this was one of the only points in favor of the falling price
Okay, cool. Yeah.
activity. Here, it talks about growth picking up, demand for oil picking up, developments in technology that lower the cost, blah, blah, blah. And then this said that high prices are good because it incentivizes developments for new technology. There you go. This is another point for the high price. The thing is, if I look here, right, look how difficult it is. Falling prices are bad. Okay. It says falling prices are bad for so many reasons. It's crazy. This question was so hard because the extract was so bad
Mm.
that you've got a fall in oil prices leads to contraction in those countries. Nigeria has been hit hard by low oil prices. They went into recession because they export oil or they export stuff related to oil.
Yeah.
Venezuela exports. Half of its government revenue comes from tax revenue from making stuff related to oil.
Mm.
Falling oil prices aggravated the economic crisis. Economy contracted. They don't have food, medicine. Okay. Yeah.
So that's a kind of argument against kind of restricting,
No, it's the argument in favor of
argument for
keeping prices
rising
high.
oil prices
Yeah.
because they're both members of OPEC.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It talks about Saudi Arabia and other OPEC countries. Blah, blah, blah. But even in general, even if it even if they're not members of OPEC, that's fine. Just the point that falling oil prices would be bad. So it's really important to keep oil prices high for all of these reasons.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
developing countries like Venezuela will suffer a lot. By the way, here it said food and medicine. That's the link. Every time you see something, try and link it. So that's the link to development.
yeah. HDI measures.
Exactly.
I think the 15
Uh,
marker that I did was about development.
yeah.
So yeah, that's
Basically, everything we read was in favor of oil. So prices being high. So that paragraph's easy to write. You can just pick any one of those. So you can pick this. High prices leads to creative disruption.
hmm
So for example, if um say if um the cinema is expensive, then somebody's going to come up with Netflix. That's the kind of thing that it's talking about. But that's not really much to write a paragraph on. You've got so much here. You've got the current account deficit. You've got literally simple diagrams like AD going to the left, AD going to the right. So if you're talking about falling oil prices, AD would go to the left and the country would go into a recession, and that's really bad. So high prices are needed to protect these exporting countries.
yeah,
Um, the hard bit was the other side. There was nothing in the whole thing that suggested that oil prices should be made low. Even
yeah.
though normal, like common sense wise, you'd think oil prices should be low, right? But the extract only had one sentence saying, look, because of the low oil prices, companies have learned to be more efficient.
We're distracting shale oil. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can use your own knowledge, but you really want to prefer sticking to the evidence given. Okay.
Okay, cool.
You can think of other points. So you can mention how if oil prices are low, it reduces reduces, say, energy bills in the UK, maybe. So that could boost living standards in the UK or in other countries. But the main point in that extract was this one.
Yeah, and there's obviously the negative externalities of oil production as well.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
But then if But then again, negative externalities of oil production suggest that price should be high, not low.
Oh yeah, that's true actually.
So
Yeah.
there's literally nothing in favor. That's why this one was hard.
If you could say if prices are low, it would kind of like
No, that's a good point. So if oil prices are low, profit will be lower. So then you've got kind of the fact that because prices are lower and profits are lower, it's driving them out of business, which is potentially a good thing. So A, they could become more efficient, which is kind of important. We don't want to waste oil because fossil fuels are non-renewable and we're going to run out. So the more efficient we can be with them, the better. But also, it can incentivize more profitable ways of producing energy, such as nuclear power and so on. So yeah, the thing is, if it takes 10 minutes to read it, I would take 10 minutes, but I wouldn't jump to answering the question.
cool.
All I would do is open up every insert like I've done, then use this page to go through the 25 markers and don't do them necessarily, but just write paragraph one, paragraph two, paragraph one, paragraph two. What would you say for each of the paragraphs in every 25 marker? And
Okay,
then
cool.
if you, because the thing is, you would know what to write inside the paragraph because you've revised it already. If you don't, that's different and you can go and recap stuff. But generally, the hard part is just picking the paragraph.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what's unique about paper three. Um,
yeah.
and then lastly, if this is not enough and you still feel unsure, one crazy thing is that in the AS papers, the contexts are so similar to paper three. So, for example, um, the oil question that came up. Wait 1 second, I'll just find the list. Um, you see the paper three 2018 was about oil. That came up in the 2023 AS paper in micro, oil and OPEC.
Oh right.
And then you see how 2019 was about housing.
Yeah, that came up.
The 2016 paper one for AS was housing.
Okay.
So it's not like we're going to know what question's going to come out, but the inserts from AS papers are really good as well. So it's not like you need to do any questions from AS because they'll be quite easy, but it is worth reading the extracts and just figuring out what the main points are from two.
Okay.